Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Birminology on Lettermen Row. I am your host, Jeremy Birmingham. Joining me today is one of the country's top-ranked junior football prospects, Will Shipley from Matthews, North Carolina. For the geographically challenged, Will, where exactly is Matthews? It's right near Charlotte, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, sir. About 30 minutes outside of Charlotte. We're right on the edge of South Carolina.
What is it that Charlotte and in North Carolina in the last few years seems to have become a major hotbed for college football recruiting? Mm-hmm. What do you think is the cause of that? Where did this come from? Because I mean, you look up and down the national football rankings these days, and it's littered with kids from your neck of the woods.
Yes, sir. I think it's just, all the kids around my area, in North Carolina have just become very competitive. We've gotten some great coaches, here and there, that makes players, just want to compete against one another. I also think it helps that, we have UNC, NC State, Duke, colleges like that in our state that we can kind of, start our recruitment with, and then, it can expand from that.
For a lot of kids in your area, the big first domino to fall is Clemson generally. Mm-hmm. Once that happens, and then Alabama and Georgia start to kick in, then opens up the whole Southeast for you. Mm-hmm. Where I'm from, it's Ohio State that we cover on Lettermen Row, and it's certainly one of the 2 or 3 biggest offers in the country, one that you've received. And this past weekend, you made your first trip to Ohio State. You told me on Sunday that the visit exceeded expectations, but I was hoping you could maybe dive into a little bit as to why, because I know that you go into these trips with an open mind, of course.
Yes, sir.
But then things happen, right? You're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that, or oh, this was better than I could have thought it would be. What were the key points for you as you drove home on Sunday afternoon where you're like, wow, that was really something I didn't expect?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that really caught me off guard, caught my eye, were the fan base and the atmosphere during the game. That kind of started it off. Just to know that the weather was bad. It was raining, and there were still 105,000 people in there. Just screaming their lungs out. It was great to see. And then just really getting to meet with Coach Alford for the first time. He really kind of. I got a really good vibe from him as a coach, as a man. And then, just kind of also seeing how they use their running backs in their offense. That's going to play a huge role in where I decide, I want to end up. And just seeing, how they use J.K. Dobbins, it was really impressive, and I can see myself in that sort of offense.
It's funny because I think coming into that game, obviously Wisconsin's reputation as the running back school, and mm-hmm. you watch it and you saw what J.K. Dobbins and Master Teague were able to do as a running back, and you're a guy that is listed as an all-purpose back, and what that means for the uninitiated is that you can catch the football too.
Yes, sir.
Were you expecting to see that sort of performance by J.K. Dobbins? I mean, he's a good running back, but mm-hmm. the catching out of the backfield, the way they were using him in different formations and sets, is that something that when you're watching a team, and you've been to Clemson, you've been to a few places like that, is that something you've seen anywhere else in the way that was the focus of the offense?
I've seen, some other colleges, moving around here and there, throwing some routes, but I've never seen it in the capacity I saw it this weekend. They were by far the best at moving around the running back, actually getting him the ball out in space, from passing the ball. And it was just a really good sight to see. And for your question of, did I expect that? I watched the Northwestern game the week before. J.K. Dobbins had a receiving touchdown, which was really impressive. And so I was going into it kind of wondering, is that a one-time thing? Are they only going to do that, in some scenarios? But, they just continue to do what they do, and, split them out, used them in the receiving game, things like that. And, it was really impressive and really caught my eye.
I was standing near you pregame, and Ohio State was warming up, and I heard you make a mention to your father about how big J.K. Dobbins' arms were.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I've obviously seen him play on TV, but just to be up there right next to him, about 5 yards, I was just like, yeah, I mean, it literally looked like he had some inserted, muscle, his triceps. I was like, yeah, this is crazy. I need to start working on my arms a little bit.
Well, I mean, in those sort of environments, people are whacking your arms in the football pretty good. So,
yes, sir.
How much time after the game did you get to spend with Tony Alford? And for those, again, who are listening or watching this, Will's recruitment has started with Kevin Wilson because that's his area in North Carolina. Sure. Worked a little bit with Brian Hartline, and now Tony Alford getting involved and getting to know you a little bit as your desired position is out of the backfield. How much time did you get with Tony Alford? How much time did you get with Ryan Day? What was it about those guys as men or as coaches that caught your attention, your father's attention?
Yeah, I got to speak to both of them before the game, and but both of them after the game. It was pretty brief. You got to get in the running back huddle, the running back meeting right after the game in the locker room. And I love everything about Coach Alford. How he addresses his players. Kind of just how he takes on himself in his room. But Sunday was when I really got to spend the most time with both of them. I got to sit down with Coach Alford, watch film, talk about what they do for about 45 minutes to an hour. That was great. And I got to sit down with Coach Day and my dad for about 15, 20 minutes. So just getting a chance to talk to them, knowing how busy they are. They have a bye week, so I know they're going out and recruiting here pretty soon. It meant a lot to my dad and I. To the point where, it kind of, took us to the point where we were like, we really need to get my mom up here. We both said it when we got in the car and when we got back home, we need to make it a point to, make it another trip and, bring my mom so she can see everything as well.
That's the thing with these first visits at places. It's sort of like that initial interview for a job, but it's not necessarily them interviewing you. It's also you interviewing them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Personality wise, do you feel, and I know you just recently went to Notre Dame and I know you had a great time in South Bend. Personality wise, is that a fit for you? Because ultimately at a place like Ohio State, the expectation is super high. It's as high as it gets anywhere in the country. From talking to people, talking to one of your high school coaches, they said you're an ultra competitive kid.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Do you pick up on that when you are on campus and for that 24-hour stretch? Do you feel that vibe from them?
Yes, sir. 100%. I got to go into the locker room after the game, and then that's really when I sense it the most. I just think they have a great atmosphere in that locker room. The players got in front, and the leaders, and they kind of spoke to the team after the game. I think that kind of just shows why this team has been so successful this year. Coach Day, just getting to speak with him for the time that I did. I didn't really know what to expect from him, going into it. But he's been one of my favorite head coaches to talk to. And then Coach Alford, with that component, I think he might be one of the most competitive, hard-nosed, coaches that I've spoken to so far. And, that's what I love. He actually asked me a question. He was like, if you come here, are you going to let me coach you to the best of my ability? And, that might be, me getting on you for this, for that. And, that's what I want right there. I know that, their job is to not be my best friend. It's to coach me and advance me to the best of my ability. So from all my senses, I think that Ohio State's definitely a place that I could fit in.
One of the things that Ohio State fans are in generally freaking out about right now is that Ohio State does not have a commitment from a 2020 running back. Mm-hmm. And if we're calling a spade, aren't particularly close to doing so. Is there for you, a player in your position, is there a little bit of a ear perking up when you're like, hey, wait a second, there isn't one committed in this class? Does that help you potentially? Does that increase interest for you? Or are you still under the impression that, hey, they're going to get one, it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I think if they need one, they'll probably end up getting one. But at the same time, obviously it's a little eye opening knowing that they don't have a 2020 commit. Because me being as competitive as I am, I want to go on and I want to play as young as I can. If that's freshman year, that's my goal. So knowing it's just one less guy to beat on the depth chart. Obviously that's appealing, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to compete. So if they do get a 2020 commit, I'm not gonna, be less appealed to Ohio State, because of that.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
You hung out a pregame. I saw you with Emeka Ibuka, the 5-star wide receiver prospect from Washington. Mm-hmm. Who else did you hang out with during the game? Jack Sawyer was there. I know. Did you get to a sense of that recruiting class, and have you already had an opportunity to get to know them prior to this visit?
Yeah, I got to spend a lot of time with Emeka. It was the first time I've gotten to meet him in person. We've spoken over social media, so that was great. Just kind of picking his brain about what he likes about Ohio State, things like that.
You guys are considering a lot of the same schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, sir, we are. And I got to meet Jack, his family. That was really cool. We actually got to ride back on the bus together. To our cars. So just kind of talked to him. Talked about his high school season. The fact that he's had to play some quarterback. Which my dad and I found kind of funny. But just getting a sense from all the commitments. Getting to speak to some of them. I think it's just great kids. Kids that fit into Ohio State. Kids that I could definitely see being my teammates in a couple of years.
What's next for you, Will? Like, what do you do now? I mean, again, you have a year and a half roughly until you have to have a decision made. Mm-hmm. Is there a narrowing coming? Is there I need to see place A, B, and C before I can do that? I mean, what's next on the agenda?
Yes, sir. I really have kind of decided that I'm going to focus on the rest of my football season, with my teammates, my coaches. And after the season, I'm going to sit down with my parents. And I'm really going to start looking into things. I'm going to narrow it down to a group of schools, and then really focus on those schools. And at that point, whenever I'm 110% committed, ready to go, that's when I'm going to make my decision.
I don't see you as the type doing a hat dance or walking out on the stage, sir, with an animal or anything like that. But is there? Do you have a special date in your mind, or if I could decide by this day, that'd be great, or anything that ideally you're like, oh, that would be a neat moment? Yeah.
I've kind of thought about it, and I'd like to get it done before next spring. I haven't come up with a certain date of when I'd like to do it yet. But I'd kind of like to get it done before next spring at the latest. So anytime from here to there, however I'm feeling. I don't want to be the kid to decommit.
Sure.
I feel like, once you commit somewhere, you should hold that commitment true. The only way I can ever, see me decommitting is if there'd be a head coach change, a position coach change, something drastic like that.
When I spoke to Jacoby Cowan a few weeks ago after his commitment, he mentioned to me that he thought that Columbus as a city was very similar to Charlotte, and he said he felt really at home in that environment. For you, Matthews is not Charlotte, understood, but is there a sense of familiarity for you in a bigger city, or are you a guy that maybe prefers a smaller campus feel, because Ohio State can be size-wise a little bit overwhelming for people?
Yeah, no, I think 100%. I recognize some similarities. I did feel very at home. My dad and I were actually talking to Coach Wilson about it. Coach Wilson said the only difference is the Buckeyes are the Panthers. In a sense where they're the big sports team in Ohio. So kind of just walking around campus, getting the vibe and everything. It was absolutely great. It is a lot like Charlotte, and I spent a lot of my time in Charlotte. So, kind of just getting that feel like I'm at home. It was a great feeling, and I think it could play a huge role.
I've heard it described to me by other people that where the majority of the major college programs in the country are in college towns, Ohio State is in sort of rare air because it's in a college city. And I think a lot of times people don't really understand or appreciate the differentiation, but for someone who's from a city, I think that it can go a long way. So anyway,
Yes,
Will, I told you I would not spend a whole lot of your time doing this, but I appreciate you joining us on Lettermen Row. And this episode of Birminology has been very insightful. We look forward to learning more about you as your recruitment moves along. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, yeah, of course. I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. For Lettermen Row and Birminology, I'm Jeremy Birmingham. That is Will Shipley. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and you know we got Buckeye Q with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.